Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, my dear students. Today we are going to study simile and metaphor, the basic and most important figures of speech. Figure of speech is a form of expression that departs in some way from direct literal statement. It produces a greater effect. It makes the meaning more pointed and clear and the language more graphic and vivid. It is a poetic device. Figures of speech, also known as figures of rhetoric. With the use of figures of speech, the thought can be expressed with special clearness, force, and beauty. Figures of speech can be classified according to the resemblance between one another, the contrast, association, their construction, indirectness of speech, and the sound. Figures based on resemblance. These are by far the most numerous and important. The resemblance is generally between things widely different in nature. The word or words used figuratively deals with the commoner and more familiar perceptions or thoughts. In the use of figures of resemblance, the mind draws upon simple and concrete in thought and speech to define, elucidate, or illustrate the abstract and less known. Chief figures of resemblance are simile, metaphor, personification, apostrophe, hyperbole, and euphemism. When two unlike objects are compared and the comparison is introduced by the words as, so, like, we have a simile. In a simile, a comparison is made between two objects of different kinds which have, however, at least one point in common. The simile is usually introduced by such words like like, as, or so. For example, oh, my love is like a red rose that is newly sprung in June. Oh, my love is like a melody that's sweetly played in tune. Here, the word like is a simile. Second example, life is as tedious as a twice told tale. And another one, a dungeon horrible on all sides, round as one great furnace flamed. When we say Ali is as tall as Ahmad, we do not have any figure of speech. It is just an ordinary comparison, the objects of comparison being of the same kind. When Milton and Dante, both poets, are compared by Macaulay in his essay on Milton, that is an ordinary comparison. But when Wordsworth addresses Milton, thy soul was like a star and dwelt apart. Thou hadst a voice whose sound was like a sea. He used the two similes. The two objects are not usually associated with each other, and the author's aim is to clarify the less familiar by reference to the more familiar. Simile is a figure of direct comparison. To explain or illustrate some aspects or relation of the thing spoken of, it is compared with something else essentially different. Similes are generally expressed by means of such words as like or as, but it must not be supposed that whatever these words are used there is a simile. The difference in nature of things compared is essential to the figure. In such sentences as, my car is like yours, or Sarah is as good as her sister, there is no figure whatever, the individuals compared beings of same class. But in, my horse goes like lightning, or she is as good as gold, there are similes. The word simile is derived from Latin word meaning like. It is a figure of speech in which two things or actions are likened to each other either for clearness and ease of explanation or for rhetorical and poetical effect. There are two kinds of simile. The first one is the simple simile in which the likeness is expressed briefly and directly without enlargement. And the second one is the developed simile or the Homeric simile, imitated in English from classical epics of Homer and Virgil, where the likeness is expressed in the descriptive picture. I wandered lonely as a cloud. He went like one that has been stunned. The news spread like wildfire. He was as poor as a church mouse. The quality of mercy is not restrained, it droppeth as the gentle rain from heaven. These are the examples of a simple simile. The example of developed or Homeric simile is, with slopping mates and dipping prow, as one pursued with yell and blow, still treads the shadow of his foe, and forward bends his head. The ships drove fast, loud roared the blast, and southward, aye, we fled. A metaphor is an implied simile. It does not, like the simile, states that one thing is like as another, but takes that for granted and proceeds as if the two things were one. Thus, when we say, he fought like a lion, we use a simile. But when we say, he was like a lion in the fight, we use a metaphor. The concise Oxford Dictionary describes metaphor as application of name or descriptive term to an object to which it is not literally applicable. For example, the camel is the ship of the desert. The news was a dagger to his heart. Life is a dream. The word metaphor comes to us through French from the Greek meta, the sense of change, and phero, I hear. It means, therefore, a transfer of significance. Thus, to take a couple of familiar examples. A ship, in the literal sense, is a vessel that travels over sea. A desert is a waste or sea of sand. The camel crosses the desert as a ship crosses the sea. So the camel, by metaphor or transference of meaning, is called the ship of the desert. In Shakespeare's Merchant of Venice, when Shylock says to Portia, I charge you by the law, whereof you are a well-deserving pillar, he expresses in metaphor his idea of an upholder of the law by calling Portia a pillar of law. It will be noted from these examples that the metaphor is, in effect, a vivid development of the simile. Metaphor is so common a figure that often we scarcely realize when we are using it. Many words have both a literal and a metaphorical meaning. Thus, the word light is used in its literal sense in such phrases as by the light of the moon, the speed of light, and in its metaphorical sense, in the book throws new light upon the subject of philosophy. In this sentence, the verb throws is also used metaphorically. When we talk about a biting wind, the objective is metaphorical. By metaphor, the wind is endowed with teeth and the ability to use them. We use a metaphor when owing to some resemblance between two subjects or the functions they perform. One is for the time being actually identified with the other. It is a figure of speech based on a comparison which is implied in the language rather than directly expressed. As he bridles his tongue, he was a lion in the combat. We employ a metaphor. If instead of comparing things different in kind, we identify them and transfer the name of the one to the other, we have a metaphor. For example, when a crafty man is called a fox, here the word fox has been used as a metaphor. A metaphor is used to move by surprise and by its energy and vividness to deepen an impression. Metaphor, alive, fresh, spontaneous, is one of the greatest aids to poetic expression. William Blake feels that the insatiate fierceness, cruelty, energy, and splendor, which are the essence of tiger's nature, are the essential attributes of fire also. He concentrates all these characteristics in one marvelous metaphor. Probably the finest single word metaphor in all literature, and it is tiger, tiger, burning bright. Excess of metaphors should be scrupulously avoided. When metaphors are greatly multiplied, it becomes more difficult to preserve their congruity, and the variety of subjects necessarily distracts the mind. The ancient critics particularly refer to this faults. In the opinion of Longinus, Demosthenes observed the just mean, and Plato often exceeded it. Let's move to a mixed metaphor. A mixed metaphor, for example, introducing two or more distinct and often incourageous images into the working of one figure renders the subject obscure or absurd, is a mixed metaphor. A mixed metaphor is a faulty mode of expression and should be avoided. Sometimes the metaphorical is mixed with the literal, as in a torrent of superstition consumed the land. There are a number of differences between simile and metaphor. A simile is a comparison between two different things using the words as, like, and as. Simile makes explicit comparisons. For example, life is not like a bed of roses. She is like an angel. Fahad is as brave as lion. On the other hand, metaphor is a comparison between two different things without using the connecting words like as and like. Metaphor make implicit comparisons. For example, Unlike simile, as life is not like a bed of roses, a metaphor is life is not a bed of roses. She is an angel. Fahad is a lion. Thank you so much, dear friends, for watching this video.